listening to the questionnaire.
Say that again.
You're listening to the questionnaires.
I've just started.
Right here, for your ears, for your eyes.
The questionnaire.
Get your comic on.
Poke it out, poke it out, poke it out, poke it out.
I just think we all need to take a moment to quest, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we need to do. Yeah, I am the Unknown Factor, AKA the Wade Wilson of hip hop, and this is the questionnaire. We're getting real close to the end of season 2. Yeah, and I told you we were going to wrap it up with a couple really nice pan cons, man, because that's what we do. Yeah. And I hope you checked out the one before us talking streaming, its effects on society and entertainment. It was phenomenal, right? And we got a couple more individuals from the future 51st state. Yeah, firstly, Fred Kennedy is back.
You're the 11th province, pal. That's how it's going to work. There's a long list of applications.
America, the 11th president. Yeah.
And of course, that
Timbits for everyone.
Yeah.
That individual, though, that just keeps making the questionnaire look better and better and better. And I can't wait to see what we're going to come up with for season 3, because we're going to do a bit of redesign that's probably going to make Shiro want to kill me.
Not the finger I want to use, but...
Yeah, and
go
back
to y'all up in here.
Back, man, and I'll tell you that I should have watched all of Hit Monkey before Kevin Melon came on the show for the first time, but he's back, and I've watched it all this time. And Kevin, I agree, man. They really should have. They should have made a season 3, but I think a lot of season 3 not happening has a lot to do with the fact that streaming and its effects on entertainment and society. You can check the before and after the quest over on the Patreon, just $2 a month. We might get into a little bit of that, as well as I don't even know what they were all talking about. I had to wipe my boy's butt at one point, you know what I mean? So that's just what that is, man. Sometimes, I ain't gonna send him to bed with like poop on his bum. That made me a terrible parent, and I ain't that one, right? Yeah, right. But what we're gonna get into today is the dichotomy of superheroes, which, funnily enough, Kevin, if you remember, this PanCon came from your quest.
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask you, because I don't watch myself after I've done interviews and stuff like this, I was going to ask you, like, if you knew exactly what I said. I do remember talking about this, but I don't remember what I said that kind of sparked what we're doing now.
Okay. I've done a lot of these, Kevin, in all fairness.
Yeah, and you don't remember either? That's okay. It's okay to say you don't remember either.
I do remember parts of it. Now, exactly what you said, I don't remember.
Just
I know
the gist is fine.
The gist was the fact that we were discussing Superman and the darkness and the differences between them. And
okay.
And we kind of touched on that. That's why Fred's here, because of the statement that was made at the very end of his quest in regards to Superman, and I felt he would be a great addition as far as to this conversation.
Let's hear that, if you can remember.
I always think that people's problems with Superman is really that
we got to take a real quick second pause. Back to the show. The sun is being unruly, but sometimes that's what children do. Funnily enough, my boy Logan here, he just wants to talk to you.
That's funny.
Hopefully it's not breathing really, really creepily into the mic. But what was your question for Fred, Kevin? Sorry.
I was just asking what Fred had said at the end of his episode that piqued your interest as far as Superman goes. So
I said that when people say they prefer Batman over Superman, it says more about them as a person than it does about Superman, because Superman is this embodiment of hope, and people that dislike Superman tend to have a much lower opinion about other people. They're hurt, they're broken.
Firstly, we need to restart this whole commercial because people could probably hear Pokemon in the background.
Please check out this amazing promotion that we have prepared with the questionnaire
of the Unknown Factor. This right here is the obscure fragment.
Are watching this show?
Yeah, I'll do editing
with the questionnaire.
So we've edited this awesome commercial together, y'all.
90% off.
We are not giving 90% off.
No, I mean 9.
How about 20?
The only thing that you have to do is enter that code that you have right there.
9.
No, 20.
10.
How about 20?
I'm printing your comics today with Studio Comics Press.
Just use this code right here, right here, right here. Look, I put it somewhere. All All right, it's probably actually right here, right. It's right under your chin. It says Quest 24.
That code you gotta enter in our website, and then you will get a Weebin discount of 20% in any of the items or products that we have on the website.
20%. All right. He wants to give you 9% off. I, as well as Alfonso over there on Studio Comics, want to give you 20% off.
You can get it right there with this amazing code. Just enter it right here. Yeah, just right there. There.
Use that code over at Studio Comics to get 20% off.
Thank you very much. This is a special one for all our friends of the questionnaire.
Type in Quest 24 when you check out, man. You can figure out the percentage you'll get right then because it'll show in your order.
Yeah,
right?
9% off.
It's 20%.
The Questionnaire, the best current comic book podcast existing around.
So happy to have Studio Comics as our very, very first sponsor. Say Studio Comics!
Studio Comics!
Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and do all the stuff that you have to do.
I'm the Unknown Factor with the Questionnaire. Make sure you check it out.
Waves and waves of fans.
Well, we can keep talking, and then we'll actually be serious once he gets back, I think. But no, that's a fair point. But also, like, I think it's interesting to bring that up because I don't know what I'd have to. Now I really will have to go back and listen to my episode with y'all. But my thing is like,
It was a lot of blaming me.
Well, yeah, that too. I do blame Shiro, but I'm not. But I love Superman, but I don't like Superman. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. I think that I love the idea of somebody with that much power being willing to use it for good rather than bad. Like, I love that idea. I think the problem is that type of character is difficult to write because everybody feels that everything needs to be so gritty and so dark. And it's interesting that the constant rhetorical question about Superman is one of the best named Superman stories ever. What's so wrong about truth, justice, and the American way? You know, like that's the thing. It's like we have this idea that like somebody with that much power is weak for not exploiting other people. You know?
Okay.
I think that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I just have to say, Fred, that's not what you said at the end of the quest.
I don't remember.
All right, that's fine.
Drinking,
that's fine.
Like,
I do, because it gave me a great deal of thought when you said it.
God, that must have hurt you so much to think that much,
it did. It made me very introspective in the moment, right? Because
what I started smelling burnt toast.
You know what? I'm not trying to have a stroke. I got enough going on, Shiro. All right, but what I said was I have always just really, really hated the character of Superman. And what you said in reply was, I feel that anyone really that hates Superman had someone hurt them at some point in their life. Now, my response to this was, okay, Fred, this quest is over. And then I went to doing my in bit and we wrapped the show up. Now, mind you, at that point, I think it'd been like 2 hours. So, you know, it was a good wrapping point. But at the same time, I don't need a psychiatrist, Fred. All right? I don't. But it did make me
Sounds like you did some crying in the bathtub by yourself after that, though.
I'm so sorry. That's been more recently, but that's neither here nor there, Kevin. All right? All right? But it did make me have a very introspective moment to where I've gotten a good deal of Superman and read it from my library since then. And it's a very valid point. It's the ability to have that amount of power, you know, and not be the guy that goes, oh, you disagree with me? You know what I mean? Because that's like, let's face it, if Superman really like wanted to deal with Lex Luthor, that's it. Just a flick of his finger, and he's gonna throw that man.
Well,
through
yeah, but I mean the thing that Fred said that speaks to me, and I agree with, is like, so what you missed, the little bit that you missed, not much, was I said that I love Superman, but I don't like Superman. So like as an idea, I love it. As a character, I don't like him. But that's not the character's fault. It's the in kind of backgrounding this while we've been talking, like the thing that I'm kind of thinking about and realizing is that, like, you know, he's a reflection of how we view him is a mirror into our, not only ourselves, as you're talking about and as Fred's talking about, but it's a reflection of the times that we live in as well. So he can seem like, you go back to Dark Knight Returns and the narcissistic, like, not narcissistic, sorry, that's the wrong word, but the kind of like cartoonish nature of calling him the Boy Scout, and of Frank Miller being like, it's like, this guy is just a one, he's going to blindly follow orders and loyalty to the red, white, and blue and all that kind of stuff, because that's what he had been built into from the 50s on, you know what I mean? And so it's like we have this, and then in the 80s you have the Cold War, you have the nuclear crisis, you have just the imminent threat of World War III. Welcome to today. But really, in the 80s, it was just such a dystopian, like, it's like, that's why we got Dark Knight Returns. That's why we got Watchmen. That's why we got, I was actually, I just bought in a dollar bin an issue of Chaikin's Black Hawk, and it's like, it's dystopian, like from the late 80s. And it's also very much riffing on what Dark Knight Returns did, but that's neither here nor there. But like this version of this character. So I grew up like there's two versions of Superman to me. At the time when I was a kid, there's two versions of Superman. There's Christopher Reeves, who is fucking amazing, and that first movie is fucking amazing, and it'll make anyone fucking cry and be like, yes, fucking, whatever, right? Yeah. But the other version of Superman is the Dark Knight Returns one, which is a cartoonish caricature of someone who just blindly follows what people tell him to do and is an agent of government and war and all this other stuff. So it's like it's reconciling that with what the idea of the character is, which is the thing I love about what the concept of Superman is this person who isn't from here but came here and loves it so much that he's willing to sublimate himself in order to, like, help us be better people. But I don't give a fuck about Clark Kent or Superman as a character. Like, the idea of this person is phenomenal, but the actual, like, reading stories about him, I try a lot, and every time there's a new thing I try, and it's like there's a reason why also Superman is so highly regarded, because it kind of did the thing and it's done. Like, it's really hard to keep going after that. Sorry.
I see what you're saying, and the execution tends to be terrible. I love Superman in Darwin Cook's New Frontier, even though you could argue he still is the Boy Scout with that scene with Wonder Woman, which is like, that's my favorite Wonder Woman scene ever. But I have those memories of seeing Christopher Reeve. It's the scene where Lois Lane's on the helicopter hanging off the roof and he runs out right to the camera. Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant to watch. And that was like my oldest first, like, screaming at the movie screen, being like, oh my God, it's Superman. It's Superman. That's like the magic of cinema right there. But I always like lean, and I know it's a huge cliche these days, but Kingdom Come Superman, to me, like, I love it. Yeah. It's like when people like say they hate Superman, I'm always like, read that story. And it's like the way it's such brilliantly written, like that idea of you finally break Superman because we nuke half the country because we just didn't listen to him. He told us it was going to happen. Didn't listen. Yeah. And then he leaves. And that idea of what the world becomes is a metaphor for a world without hope. A world without hope, a world that doesn't have anything to believe in, transcends into villainy, And it's
that's a really good point. And it actually, you know what, now that you're saying that, like, I always forget Kingdom Come. And Kingdom Come was super important, and it's unfortunate that seems to have been forgotten as far as what the goal of that whole story was, because the goal of that story was to kind of like I don't know that Mark Waid and Alex Ross were thinking about this, but in my mind right now, like looking at all the things and kind of seeing it, like the goal of that story was to almost course correct the Frank Miller version of Superman. You know what I mean?
100%.
And to sit there and to say like, no, this guy, the Frank Miller version exists because you're viewing it through this myopic lens of Batman and Batman's narrow worldview of you are doing right or you're doing wrong. You know what I mean? And then, but Superman is yeah. So anyway, so the Kingdom Come, that idea of what he is and why he keeps fighting for things, that's relevant. And that means, yeah, okay, yeah.
And like you could even that Magog character, you know, like Magog is the definition of the extreme 90s.
Yeah.
The only thing Magog is missing is a lot of like pouches. Like that's all that he's missing.
But he's got literal devil horns. You
devil
know what I mean?
horns
like,
and the
got
big
ram's
staff.
horns and like yeah.
And that line where like, and that's what I think about is so brilliant about that story is the way that he reconciles the Batman and Superman ethos, and the like. Even when Batman was at his darkest, he never killed. You know, he never killed. That's what it comes down to.
Well, and that's a whole other like how people treat Batman is a whole other thing, because like and I'm probably said this with the previous podcast with Shiro, but pardon me. Batman to me, I appreciate what people do with Batman now. And I will always check out new Batman stuff, but my biggest gripe is like he's supposed to be the world's greatest detective. Like he's supposed to be Sherlock Holmes with fighting, but able to with fucking like Krav Maga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Sherlock Holmes able to kick some fucking ass. Like that's, and he's very, and I think it is because like there's a. And I'm not trying to dismiss what people have done over the last like 10 to 15 years, because there have been some good crime solving stories with him. But overall, he's kind of more of like a weapon of, it sounds fucking dumb, but like he's like a weapon of like, you know, the state or something like that, where it's like he's doing the thing that the cops aren't allowed to do, like that kind of, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like he, like, that's why I actually, you know, and it has its problems, but I appreciated the Robert Pattinson Batman movie. Because it's actually a guy trying to solve a crime. Like he is sitting there looking at puzzle pieces, trying to figure out what the end goal is and how to catch this person. And that is a lot of what I miss with, you know, like Absolute Batman has been fun to read, but like I still want it. I'm still missing the crime, the Sherlock Holmes part of it. The guy that is the smartest guy in the room, and he's being presented with an unsolvable problem that only he can solve because of who he is. You know what I mean? Like that is, and the escalating level of villains and people in his life that are constantly presenting him with harder and harder things to solve, or things to solve that because he's so smart, he just misses something so simple. Like that as a storyteller, like the fact that you've got the smartest guy in the room fucking going like, wait, you mean the answer was this dumb all along, is also satisfying. Like that's still, as a viewer, that is still satisfying. And I haven't read every Batman thing ever in the last fucking 20 years, but I've read enough to go like, there's not enough of that there. You know what I mean?
I often think like it's I call it like the Assassin's Creed problem. The Assassin's Creed,
Jake Gyllenhaal?
Well, that's a different problem. But the Assassin's Creed problem being like, when you play the game Assassin's Creed, you can play the game in the shadows, being unseen the whole way, and still accomplish all the things. But they've created this system where they want you to go out and fight and beat up all the guys. But to me, the idea of like the assassin in the shadows, that the best missions are where nobody even gets touched. Yeah. That's what I like a Batman story where he's moving, nobody even knew he was there.
Yeah. And
then he presents this whole case and figures it all out without anybody even realizing he was on the case in the first place. And I feel like it'd take a really special artist to pull that off, and really have to be like you could do like a one and done with a character like that. I don't know if you could well, you probably could, because you'd inevitably have somebody who's almost as smart as him and catch him and make him have to whip out his Krav Maga, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's kind of like you build the tension mentally, and emotionally, with the actual pieces of the case, but then it's like, okay, here's the fucking who's the crocodile guy?
Dundee?
Yeah.
Killer Croc. Sorry, Killer Croc.
Yeah.
But then it's like,
I
okay,
say Crocodile
you have
Dundee.
like a B plot where you have a B or a C plot where it's like, okay, Killer Croc's running loose again. I got to go fucking fight this guy and drag him in because nobody else the cops aren't willing to do this. Show the cop, and you just sit there and you show the cops being like, fuck no, I'm not dealing with a fucking walking crocodile. That's not, and Batman
He's got
being
a
like,
really
"All right,
big
fucking-"
rock.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, you can sit there and you can balance, you can have your cake and eat it too with this character. Like, and this is honestly going back to Superman. Like, it's a very similar thing to me. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can sit there and like, you can have the guy who is the Christ metaphor, all this other stuff, but also at the end of the day, you have someone who is empathetic if done well, he is empathetic to the human plight, because even though he isn't us, he understands us, because it's kind of sitting there saying, like, across universes, we still feel these things. We still struggle with these things. And I'm here to say that, like, as hard as it is, it's worth it in the end. And I don't always get that from a Superman book. You know what I mean? And to me, that's kind of where, to speak on, what this is supposed to be about, the dichotomy of superheroes. The dichotomy of superheroes is they're supposed to punch shit, but then at the end of the day, we need to feel good about the fact that they punch a lot of shit.
Yeah. I
And
think that just
Superman-
comes down to like a well-written story. You know, just if somebody writes it well.
Yeah, well, writes it well, and then a sympathetic and empathetic artist who is willing to convey those emotions visually in a way that are more than just a cookie cutter, like, here's Superman's face, but in a way that's like, no, this man really feels this in this moment right before he punches a building. You know what I mean? Like, and that was like, if you want to like go to the egregious route, like Man of Steel fails as a Superman movie, because you don't ever feel bad for anybody, let alone Superman or Zod or whatever. But also, it's a fucking amazing Invincible movie. Like, if it was Invincible, like if you just reskinned him as Invincible, it would be fucking killer. Like I bet Robert Kirkman was watching that going like, what the fuck, dude? I mean, granted, he's 3 seasons into it in a successful Amazon show, but Man of Steel is Invincible. Like, that makes sense to me, but because it lacks the empathy and the social empathy that Superman has for what is going on around him. You know what I mean?
Have you read the Dan Slott run of Silver Surfer? Sorry, dude. Have you read the Dan Slott?
No.
Okay. When you're talking, like, it checked all the boxes, like when you got like an insanely powerful character, and you have really slick writing and really well executed art. You take a character that can like travel across the cosmos, who can nigh travel through time, breach dimensional barriers, etc. But you put them in a position where there was somebody they really like, that's a very good friend, their first really good friend in a long time, and then you put them in a very relatable situation where they get caught in a lie but don't address it, and it builds up for several issues, and then when they get caught, the reaction is very human, and it was just a little lie that just got out of hand. And it's like, that to me is like really slick writing, because you can be bulletproof all you want, you got busted in a lie and you lost respect for the guy. It's really cool. I like, when we talk about that dichotomy, I think that the Silver Surfer run with the Allreds and Dan Slott is
No, I'll have to check that out.
It's also really weird, man. It's also really weird and out there.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
love
I mean,
it. I love it.
anytime you get Mike Allred on something, like, I mean, you know, those ecstatic books from back in the day are fucking bizarre, but they're wonderful, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I think, well, and I think that's why, you know, like, to kind of deviate a little bit, but, like, I think it's a lateral move. Like, that's why a character like Green Lantern is so hard, because he's a space cop. Like, at the end of the day, he's a space cop.
Yeah.
So
that's
what do you do with somebody that people need, but also simultaneously don't respect? You know what I mean?
That's what I think makes him relatable, is because we all feel like that. Like, everybody feels like that. It's like when you're a parent trying to deal with your kid, you're like, listen, I'm just trying to get you to make the right choices. I'm not trying to be a dick here, bud. You're making me the bad guy. Like, just I'm doing this for you, man.
Yeah,
well,
because he should be, because
you need
he should be
sleep
asleep.
and a clean bum.
Yeah. We got an early morning, and Daddy can operate on 4 or 5 hours because Daddy's crazy, and that's just how that works. He can't do that. Not quite yet. I'm sure when he's older, he'll be able to operate on 4 or 5 hours just like Daddy, because I know he's wired the same way. But at 5 years old, he can't do that yet. He needs more sleep, and I know we got an early morning. You know, so that is interesting. But I do have to say, as far as the initial statement you said earlier, Fred, like, I don't like Batman really either. I'm not a fan.
Good.
That's fine. That's fine. I think that plays into what we're talking about with, like, you know, what I don't remember if you were, I think you were away when I was talking about this, but, like, Batman to me is basically Sherlock Holmes plus Krav Maga. Like, he's the smartest person in the room, and then he can kick some ass when he needs to. You know what I mean? But the thing that has overtaken Batman over the last, like, couple decades is the fact that he just kicks ass. They focus on him, and whereas the focus should be the man is good at fighting as a means to an end, and the end is solving crime and making things better for the town that he loves, that he should not. Like, he has every reason to hate this place. He should have left it. He should have never, you know, like, when he went and did his training and you know, and whatever, like, he should never have come back. Again, another character with a Jesus metaphor, like this one with more than Superman, because Superman landed here and then was raised here you know, as a Christ metaphor of, like, being like someone that we look up to and is, like, the best form, embodies the best ideals of who we are. Whereas Batman's more of a Christ metaphor in some ways, in the fact that, like, he's a child and we know what happened to him as a child, and then he goes away for a certain amount of time and then comes back as this dude who's going to fight crime. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's a weird thing there of, like, you know, like there's a missing 20 years in his life where he goes away and he learns the ways of the world, and then he comes back and is like, okay, now I am a bat. I am a, you know, whatever. Anyways, but the point being, like Batman is the human lens. So Superman is kind of this, like, more like higher aspirational thing. Whereas Batman, like, I think Batman is relatable for more people because we all have, I could win the lottery someday, you know, vibes to us. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm just like a moment away from being a billionaire. So, like, we're a moment away from being Batman and from having resources and from being able to do all this shit. And what Batman allows us to enact our societal aggression, and the fact that this guy can go out there every night and all his focus is on solving crimes and stopping things from getting worse. He wants to make things better. He wants to help people. He wants to in quote unquote save people, but also he's trying to save himself. He's trying to, I feel like, from my own like take on Batman, like he's trying to, at the end of the day, he's trying to reconcile the trauma within himself by saving society. But society keeps throwing things at him that are perpetually, like, in our eyes, worse. Whereas really for him, it's just more problems to solve. Like, he's got a new case to solve. But then, you know, as I was talking with Fred, like the idea is Batman should be more Sherlock Holmesian in the fact that he's got this incredibly hard case to solve, but occasionally he just needs to go beat someone up in order to solve a problem. So it's like he's got a Riddler problem to solve, but then he's also got a Killer Croc problem to solve. Riddler's problem is mental, Killer Croc is physical. Like that to me makes sense as
Batman's a douche. All right. I'm sorry. Like any when I look at any, and I can't tell you how many different comic characters I know I've read and this and that. I'm not gonna sit here and try and figure out.
It's at least like 3, right?
I mean, I'm more probably like if it was 3,000 at this point, I wouldn't be surprised at some point, just in some capacity, even if it was just an issue. You know, he's the one I kind of I look at, and I think he's one of the most flawed heroes because he is sitting here like, I want to fix Gotham. Okay, well, you got you and all your rich buddies, and why don't you just convince them? Because if you're the smartest man in the room, why don't you convince all of your rich buddies that it's better for all of them if everyone else is in a good position too, and Crime Alley doesn't exist, and you create a different level of industrial revolution in Gotham.
Listen, I said this exact same thing on an interview in the summer. The Raid Studio in Toronto was doing an Artist Alley thing, and they're like, if you can get rid of any superhero, who'd it be? And I even said, listen, Batman is a perfect case study in misallocation of resources. He is a guy who is worth billions of dollars that has bought a bunch of armor. And then he drives a really cool car, and and he drives around with his little gizmos and gadgets. Guaranteed with that money, he could open at least 1 or 2 free trades educational facilities in Crime Alley. We could get all these guys with union jobs. We could turn Crime Alley into Prosperity Alley. It would take maybe 10 years. And how long has he been on the streets for? That money he has spent there, he could spend there. Soup kitchens, food kitchens, clean things up, invest in civic infrastructure, properly running free public transit for people to get to work, like a billion things. But then,
keep this in mind, okay? There are a lot of abandoned warehouses
or
in
our current
Gotham.
government. Oh, sorry.
Batman.
And what do? Once a year, charity ball, and every single time that charity ball is always crashed in by one of the supervillains.
Yeah.
Waste of resources.
Yeah, exactly. No one likes, even in Lego Batman, they smash into the charity ball.
So I think here's the thing though. Okay, so if you follow that line of thinking and that's your mandate as a story,
just for the rich superheroes, like the Frank Castles are allowed to do their thing.
Right, but let's kind of follow it for a second. I don't want to deviate too much on this, but let's follow it for a second. So say that's your mandate as a storyteller, is benevolent and community minded Bruce Wayne. That is a compelling human interest element.
But a terrible thing to read. No one wants to read that.
Hold on now. That's where you come back to what I was saying, which is you have your A plot is that, but your B plot is here's this weird science experiment gone wrong, running amok throughout the city. Again, I'll just keep using him as an example, Killer Croc. But say it's Mr. Freeze, or say it's
Man-Bat.
Clayface. You know what I mean? You can sit there and you can, I think, intelligently make a comic that serves both masters.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not. And
but
to my knowledge, they're not. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not reading everything, so.
I've never heard of a Batman story that ilk, but I feel like if you do try to serve both of those masters, like you're saying, Kevin, then I think there are so many villains that shouldn't be villains anymore. You should be able to take the Riddler and make him a huge asset. You should be able to take Harley Quinn and make her a huge asset. You should be able to take Mr. Freeze and make him a huge asset. There's so many.
Okay, let's stop on Harley Quinn, because I think that's an interesting example. Because she's a pardon me if I'm getting this wrong, but she's a psychiatrist who fell in love with a patient. That is fascinating and happens a lot. So there's enough to mine there, like psychologically, but then also she fell in love with a patient who just happens to she gets into shit, but she gets into shit with a guy who is just as damaged as the person she fell in love with. So she's seeing like a multi-spectrum of like what's going on with not only the person she loves, the person that he hates, but she also is sitting there as being like, oh, I understand this. And also she's sitting there going like, what the fuck is wrong with me that this is where I'm at? And why aren't we getting those stories? You know what I mean? Because you can sit there and you can have Harley Quinn doing fucked up shit because she's in love with the Joker, because people make bad decisions about people they are in love with all the time. But then you can also have the psychiatrist version of her sitting there going like, oh my God, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what the fuck did I just, sorry.
That reminds me of that like front
I'm
line
cussing way too much. I
line.
apologize. I am
You
so sorry.
look
But
every time there are certain people when I have them on the show, I'm like, yeah, this episode isn't going to be PG, and you're definitely one of them, Kevin. But proceed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I literally said at the beginning, like, okay, I can do
You're
this.
not
and
even remotely
did
sorry.
not even remotely do that.
Yeah, no, you don't
I'm
sit there. Don't
this
give
much
me.
sorry.
Oh,
There was a
this much.
comic line from Marvel during Civil War called Frontline, I think it was, and it was like,
Oh yeah.
and it that what you're saying reminds me of that, like this procedural, like almost like a police procedural, detective procedural type show as a comic. And I remember going into my local and being like, I love it so much. It sells like garbage. They're never gonna do this again. I'm like, because I really liked it.
No,
I like that
Frontline.
idea.
It was fun because it was a perspective that we didn't
Yeah.
have, and that's the thing that like I actually feel like, God, I haven't thought about Frontline since it came out, but you talking about it, like my brain immediately goes to that sort of thing would actually probably be really well received now. It just wasn't then,
because everyone wanted Wolverine hunting down like errant mutants run astray, et cetera,
right.
et cetera.
Yeah. And whereas now people are really, from what I can gather, and I could be wrong, so please correct me if you feel like I'm wrong, but I feel like people want that perspective on things. They want a deeper perspective, like, because right now it's like, I'm sitting there reading, I'll neglect saying certain titles, but I'm sitting here reading new titles of stuff that is, Ultimate related, stuff like that. And I'm sitting there going like, I am so bored by what you're telling me, because you're not giving me enough of Hulk ripping Wolverine in half. You know what I mean? You're giving me all of this like I need to explain to you why this story matters. But I don't need to know why the story matters. I need to know why the characters, why the events matter to the characters. And that I'm not getting enough of. And then I need to see Wolverine get ripped in half. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm mixing a couple of different things that I'm talking about here, but like the biggest thing that I am seeing amongst a lot of stuff that I'm reading is there's an attempt at empathy, but it's being filtered through what they think people want versus going like, I'm a comics fan. I'm a person, a woman, lady, whatever, like guy, whatever, who's read these books over the last like 5, 10, 20, 30 years. I'm going to give you like them beating the shit out of each other. But I'm also going to give you like, here's why you care, so that when they beat the crap out of each other, you actually are invested in this. And I don't feel that from a lot of modern stuff that I read. So like if you take it back to like a bad example, but take it back to like the 80s of like, you would get an issue of Talking Heads from Chris Claremont for an X-Men book. You would get an issue where there's like fucking like 40 word balloons on one page, which is egregious in every sense of the word. But then you'd get an issue where all they're doing is friggin' fighting shit and beating the crap out, and then you're losing, you know what I mean? Like he would sit there, he understood the cost for his audience of what they wanted versus what they needed to understand why they wanted it. They wanted this justification, so they needed to sit through an issue or two of the New Mutants, like talking about being teens and going through puberty and like, oh my god, my powers are out of control. And then there's an issue or two of like, oh crap, the whole world is exploding. I just fucked up everything, like that sort of thing. So
Do you think that affects the economy of superheroes, the fact that they have to balance that? And there has become, over a certain amount of time, certain formulas, especially by the big two, that they kind of feel like they have to stand by for things to work. Excuse me.
don't die.
I ain't got time for
Okay,
that.
Jay is
Yeah.
dying live. We're now going to take some donations.
Please,
Going to
subscribe to
take
the
bets on
Patreon.
how fast he's going to
I-
keel over.
Yeah, I mean, Fred, what do you think?
You know, it's interesting, like, because like when we brought up the topic of the dichotomy of superheroes, I didn't even think about like Marvel or DC or anything like that. Like the counterbalance of what superheroes are versus what they aren't, and what people want them to be versus the way they need to be as characters. I immediately gravitated towards The Incredibles. Like, if you want to talk about like an example of a great story about the dichotomy of superheroes, and I would argue that The Incredibles has a perfect screenplay. It is one of the most gut-wrenching stories you're ever going to read. But that scene where, what's a superhero? A superhero is kind, is friendly, leads, etc. And the opening scene is you see the superhero who just wants to get rid of this kid. Just get out of here. I don't even want to deal with you. And clearly this kid is obsessed with him. Like, clearly this kid is obsessed with who he is and desperately wants to be a superhero. But the idea of rejection from somebody in that position of power when they're supposed to be such a generous leader sends them on this path of super villainy. Like, I'm surprised that we're sticking so much to just Marvel and DC, because when Kevin's bringing up like these like superheroes and the economy of being a super good person and fighting villainy at the same time, The Pedestrian, I think, is a comic that does that really well, because The Pedestrian is like, it's such a funny name for the story and the character, because the super villain antics in it are rather pedestrian. And then the super villain is just like refuses to even not cross the street when the crosswalk symbol is wrong. Like, it's just such a great, and you still care, because like what ends up happening in the story is that you're dealing with the Superman idea of somebody who's being good for the sake of good, is just trying to make a difference. And just for doing that, they find themselves at the other end of the law, being like hunted down, you know? Sean Van Gorman and Joey Esposito from Magma. That was like one of the big Magma books that launched. And I think that is one of the best superhero books that I have read in a long time, man.
No, that's good. I'm aware of it, and I had not actually checked it out. So this
Yeah,
is cool.
I
Check it
want
out, so,
I
yeah.
want to read that now based on that, man. Well, let's take it to a different aspect then.
It's just very funny the way they illustrate him walking. You know he's coming because you hear a whoosh, 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 because of this pants that he's wearing are always whooshing when he walks very fast. It's great. It's fantastic stuff.
I don't remember the title, but like one of the first, I would say one of the first volley of ideas that Dennis Hopeless and I came up with. So we did, my first book with him was, my first book in general was called Gearhead, and then we did another book called Love Struck, and then I went to do TV stuff and he went to work at Marvel. But one of the things that we came up with that we really wanted to explore that we never did was actually kind of talking about all this stuff, and it was basically like a series, and we never got around to pitching it or whatever, so it doesn't exist in any form other than us talking. But it was us exploring the idea of, in the first issue, not Superman but the Superman analog is killed. And then you spend the next year of like the next 6 to 12 issues just sitting there going through like every person in that analog's life, like the Lois Lane, the Jimmy Olsen, the Lex Luthor, you know, the Brainiac, like basically going like how does this person's death affect all of these people? Because we were so enamored with the fact that, like, Superman is boring now, like the
Really,
that
we've
sort of thing.
discussed that.
Say again.
We've discussed that tonight. We've got
Right. Yeah. And it was called Life After. I think it was called Life After. So it's like, and it, to us, it was very important at the time, and maybe we'll get around to it. I have no idea. But like, to us, like, that idea was important at the time because we were sitting there trying to find the hope, what's the way forward in a world where there is no way forward with these types of characters? You know what I mean? How do you, and the only thing was like sitting there going like, oh, if he's gone, how do you deal with the aftermath of that character being gone? Like, people are going to fill the void. People are going to try to fill the void. And I feel like that's actually like a metaphor for how comics kinds of functions, is people are oftentimes trying to fill the void for where these seminal, like, idealistic characters aren't filling their own void anymore. You know what I mean? And so you end up with all these indie comics that are just trying to do lightly baked Superman or lightly baked Batman or lightly baked Green. You know what I mean? So
But let's totally flip the script, right? Because we've gotten into pretty much just superheroes, haven't really touched on anything else. But part of the conversation, the quest that Kevin had that brought this up also involved the Darkness, Jackie Escato. And I think another character that is right along the same ilk, maybe a little bit more twisted, would be Ernest Fairchild, otherwise known as Evil Ernie. And I think those are two characters where you look at them, and they started off with very screwy childhoods, where they were put through a great amount of crap, and then they were gifted a phenomenally exceptional power it's a little broken in both their cases. Like, hey, if I'm in the dark, that's the end of whatever I want to be the end of. And then there's Evil Ernie, who it's like, no, I just kill people and then I make them kill you, and that's what I do. I mean, they're pretty screwy. But in the runs of both of these characters, you see them develop from pretty much a hard villain to more of an anti-hero. In the case of Jackie Escato, I mean, that's a very, very, very long series to where, he ends up having his daughter with Hope, and they end up collectively saving the world, and then he ends up ending the world and creating a world out of the darkness and Hope. And that's a really screwy story of a man that realizes he screwed up, but then tries to use his power to make it where it wasn't like that, just so he didn't lose his daughter, And then you have the case of Evil Ernie, which I think is my favorite example of Evil Ernie going from, look, I'm just going to kill everything, to being more of an anti-hero was, and this is way later on in the series, I think it's where the Santa Fe comics, where it was Evil Ernie in Santa Fe, he's sitting there talking to Smiley, his button, and he's like, and he spins this dial, because he had like a dial at the time that had the number 1 through 6. It lands, he goes down, and he kills this guy. Now, this guy was terrible to children, and I'll just leave it at that and not get into any more detail, but he was really bad to children. Smiley was like, well, what was that about? Why'd you spin the dial? He's like, well, it was to show that I could make a decision for myself. Oh, yeah? What'd you decide? Well, I decided I was going to spin the dial, and whatever number come up, I was going to go down there and kill him, because of the type of person he was. So it's walking a very odd line in that. And like I said, they took these characters from what they were to that. So I think that's an interesting aspect of the dichotomy of just comic book characters, period. Because it's a twist. To where
there's also like the Conan the Barbarian idea, and I think Conan counts as a superhero. And this goes back to like the big debates between Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft, because if you look at like H.P. Lovecraft, the through line is that man is inherently barbaric and evil and villainous and depraved, and society makes them better. But Conan is the exact opposite. Conan operates on the pure instinct of You don't lie. You follow your word. You treat people with respect. And he's viewed as barbaric and a barbarian. And the raw nature of man being inherently good is loud and clear in the Conan stories, because whenever you're reading the stories, the people that are always coming to lands, enslaving people, stealing the resources, destroying things, are always the large, powerful empires that are civilized. It's the barbarian that is actually noble, which is wild, because when they look at nobility, they're always primped and preened and wearing all these things. But in the stories, generally speaking, with some exceptions, the richer and more powerful a character is at the beginning of the story, the worse they wind up being. And that's like when Conan becomes King Conan. That's like such an awesome, like, and these are old stories. These are like stories that are close to 100 years old. This isn't like a new thing written for our modern ears or anything, or eyes. That's the way Robert E. Howard himself would consistently argue. I think they called him, like, forget what they called him. There was a nickname they had for him when they were writing their letters back and forth. But like, that to me is a great example of like dichotomy in these comic book characters, because the barbarian, who's uncouth, etc., is actually the good guy, you know?
And you make a valid point. Oh, well, because firstly, yeah, Conan's a superhero, man. He was part of the Savage Avengers. Come on, right? see, you got to just flat out give him that. But yeah, and I mean that's the same thing I would say with Thor. Thor very much entitles the same thing as far as what you just described with Conan. Like, people would look at him and he's a savage because he's like another, and smashes the cup. And I mean that's happened in the comics as well as the films. So that's interesting, man. Because yeah, why, like, and Batman's a douche, and that's all I can go back to on that.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a bit of a stretch here. So what I would say is, if you want to look at things from a more cultural one-to-one aspect, is, and bear with me here because I'll land my point as best I can, and then you guys can tear it apart. But you have someone like Oliver Anthony writing a song like Rich Men North of Richmond, and that like blows up like on like social media, but it blows up in a way that is both taken to heart by both the left and the right, whereas this dude's sitting there going like, no, y'all are just fucking crazy. Like, at the end of the day, he's sitting there going like, y'all are crazy and y'all are like not listening to what I'm saying. And I think that's kind of the issue with like someone like Conan, is like Conan is like sitting there like we're watching this character, and he's a weapon of the bourgeoisie, or he's a weapon of the people. Like, and I think that's where he's interesting, in the sense of like, he's sitting there going like, Conan can walk away from everything, as Oliver Anthony has done. He has walked away from all of it. He's sitting there going like, no, none of y'all get what I'm doing. I'm peacing out. I'm going to do my thing. You paid me. I'm done. Conan's kind of a very similar representation of that, of sitting there going like, no, like, y'all in power are wrong. Y'all who don't have power, I'm with you, but you're still wrong. You know what I mean? He's sitting there going like, I am the mediation between you both, and I will slaughter who I need to, when I need to, how I need to. And I could be wrong in this, so please tell me how I'm wrong.
I've got like 5 minutes, like, so I'm gonna do this and then I gotta
sure.
But
yeah,
the best story of Conan, the best one that Robert E. Howard ever wrote, is this one called Hour of the Dragon. And this is when Conan is the king. Conan has been the king, and the things that Conan has done were amazing. He took all the gold from the temples and he gave it to the people. He took all the money from the merchant princes in their warehouses and made housing and hospitals for people. He emptied the treasury for the people. But the problem is that in the process of doing that, he alienated all the rich and powerful people in the kingdom of Aquilonia. So the rich and powerful people hate him. They hate him. And so they've still got their money, they still got their wealth, and so they use their wealth to raise I forget, is it Emontoth? Forget the name of the, it's not Tulsa Doom, but it's one of the many snake priests and snake wizards and gods, etc., evil sorcerer kings from an age gone by. And so they use all their wealth to raise this guy who's evil, and then they also pay off specific generals to betray Conan, and then he ends up getting like killed. And the thing that's interesting is that he has this very like come to Jesus moment in the sense that like he's got to save the people, and he knows that he's got to save the people because they're destroying themselves, and all the people he's helping him fall victim under the sway of these awful, powerful, rich, so on and so forth people again. But that's not the reason he starts it. It's not the reason he sets it initially. He sets out because he just wants to fucking get revenge. Like at the end of the day, all he wants. And the thing is that as the story goes along, he learns about the fate of all of the people, and it becomes this ennobling him with a greater idea. But that's not why he starts out. It's a really attractive dancing girl who gets him a knife, and he picks the lock and he escapes. And his mindset is, if I come back, I'm going to marry her. Why is he going to marry this dancing girl? Because she didn't give him a pretty, fancy, sparkly knife. She went and stole him a really heavy knife that was good to kill people with. And that's the type of woman that Conan wants to be with. That's the type of woman he wants to have his children with.
Yeah, all I know to unpack there. It's unfortunate you have to go because there's a lot to unpack there.
But I love Conan, man. I could talk Conan all day.
Real quick, before you run off, Fred, I just have to say, you realize in the bulk of this conversation, especially what's just been said, what you essentially said is that as a whole, as a people, that we are unsavable. Only certain individuals will ever truly understand what is just.
No.
Oh, okay.
I disagree with that as well. Like, so yeah.
I hope
it's the rich and powerful.
I hope
that
you
are
both
unsavable.
do.
That's what I said.
That's
my through line.
All right.
I'm sorry that you're not rich and powerful, but
I'm always going to have a mortgage. I come from a long line of ditch diggers, farmers, and coal miners. I'm never going to. This is it. I'm living their dream. I had breakfast today. I've achieved all they ever hoped for their genetic line.
Your ancestors looking at you. Oh,
yeah, that's right. What he can read, and he owns a car. Oh my God, this is amazing.
Both at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say that, Fred, you and I are going to be friends because not only because I've enjoyed our conversation, but also because amidst all your comic art that's back behind you, you have a Tool album framed, and we're buddies now. So
yeah, for sure. I'll reach out. I want to come back. We can do this again. We just have to start early.
We should do this again because I feel like with all the poop issues, we can probably do another hour plus on this with more poop issues.
Yeah.
I feel like we actually have not done enough poop issues. Like we can do more. Like you actually can be less involved because of the amount of poop in your life. And so Fred and Shiro and I can just talk. Well, Shiro can listen because clearly we just monopolized every amount of their time.
Firstly, all I know is when you said, I got something and hang with me, it's going to be a bit of a stretch. I thought, is he not going to curse? And then you cursed in like the first minute and a half. And I was like, yeah, that wasn't a stretch,
I'm so sorry.
Kevin. I know.
If you need help editing my curses out of this episode, I'm happy to help you.
You know what, dude? Are you, no, you don't want, you want to just become the show's editor? Because that would be awesome. I could
but I will.
I gotta run, man. I gotta go.
Okay,
all
go.
right, Fred, you have a lovely night. I really think this is going to be the first PanCon, honestly, of season 3. Yeah, when it starts. Sure. I don't know. Yeah. We're taking it. That's interesting.
I do feel like we should actually try and get Tim and Phil to do an episode with us. Like, even if I'm not involved, you should get Tim and Phil. Like, just whatever, and I can help wrangle them as best I can. Like, not that I have any sway, but I can help. So
I think, well, no, in all sincerity, I just love when conversations happen and like you didn't know Fred and now you've met Fred. And
no, he's awesome.
And now you're besties.
Yeah, he's great. I can see why you wanted him on this because the cloth we are cut from is very similar. So yeah, it makes sense.
I wasn't even. I mean, he's a great. I mean, look, I'll be real honest. I would love to have it to where I could get everybody that's ever been on the pretty much everybody that's ever been on the questionnaire all together. But firstly, no one would get a word out, period, because that would be like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how many people that would honestly be at this point. I'd really have to figure it out. It would be a lot, and a
It's at
lot of
least,
them.
I mean, it's dozens, if not 100 or so, right?
Oh no, it might be getting up around 200 now.
Okay,
That
nice.
have been on the show. I'd really have to. I'd have to go and count, and I'm not doing it. If anybody out there wants to count and figure out how many people have been on the questionnaire, you're all more than welcome to. I'm not doing it. All right, that's just I'm not, because it's
No, but I do feel like the format that y'all like work to inhabit and provide for people is a good, because even though you had your stuff going on tonight, like it was like, as far as like your kid and all that, actually provided for. I think when you go back and see this, you'll see like there was some good conversation happening, and I think that's a good thing. Like I don't feel like that's like I don't feel like I don't know what your perception on this episode is, but I think it's going to be a good episode, just based on the fact that like you put two people in a room.
Yeah.
Plus Shiro able
the
to
fact that I
sit there.
barely said anything, that's going to be one of the best episodes ever.
Firstly,
no, Shiro, I love your input. I am sorry that you didn't get to speak more, because clearly I talk too much. But
well, it also
I
helps
think,
that I am
again, I think the nice thing,
not up to date on my comics.
Totally
like I was
fine.
glad when Fred started talking about Conan, because I have some Conans.
yeah. But I think the nice thing is providing a space for people to feel comfortable chatting, and that's what we did. So like, like if nothing else comes out of this, like, dude, Fred's awesome. Like, hell yeah.
And that's one thing I will say in the span of running this show. You should join the Discord, Kevin. I should have Fred jump in there too.
Email me the Discord link and I will join.
And then for everybody out there, if you join the Patreon, you too can join the Discord. And there might be a bunch of creators and who knows else in there that are past guests on the show. It's getting
kind of I'm in there. If that's not an argument, I don't know what is.
That's funny.
Yeah, Shiro will give you crap. That's certainly for certain. And
I have new stuff coming out, so like it's something that I was going to hit you up about anyways. But yeah, like it's one of those things where I need to send you all like what I've got that I'm working on for the next that's going to come out over the next few months, and like figure out a time to do like a hey, let's talk about this and just shoot the shit on some other stuff. So.
Definitely, like I said, because we are going to be wrapping season 2 here very shortly. The last is going to be
this would totally work for season 3 stuff. So
yeah. Well, in season 2, the finale is going to be pretty much the crew that really helps this show actually run to the capacity that it does now. Yeah. Because when this show started, Kevin, it was a man and his madness, and I knew some people in the comic book industry from running from their online radio that I ran previously.
Right. Yeah.
And all I can say is I'm so happy that I deal with creators and entertainers and not hip hop artists now. And as somebody that's hopefully will have some new music coming out by myself, Killa Factor, as well as my brother DKB. I'm sure there are people that will be mad at the statement that I just made. I don't care, because the comic book community runs on love. The hip hop community runs on hatred of one another. It's kind of annoying, right?
Yeah.
To a certain degree. So I don't have time to hate any other hip hop artists. But if y'all want to go hate me, please, by all means, speak my name within that community. It does me nothing but good, and trash talk me all you want. But I would far rather deal with the people that I do.
What I do.
Questionnaire. But that's all in love. Don't make me start dropping F-bombs, Shiro. Like this is just a message between me and you. Like Kevin's like, shit, Kevin, you every time. No, dude.
I'll try to be careful. So, fucking Batman, okay?
That's what you should start the episode is. Like, take that clip, Clip that. I'll try to be careful.
It'll-
So fucking Batman, and
It'll-
then that's it.
it'll be in a reel somewhere on Instagram. I'm trying to get
Yeah.
better about
Yeah,
using
yeah.
that,
No, you
TikTok,
should.
and all
Yeah.
these platforms. And
Oh my god, if you had the time, start with I'll try to be careful and then cutting all the times Kevin says fuck.
oh my god, like
I'm
firstly,
so sorry.
I-
I literally I was sincere and did not follow through on my sincerity at all. So I
from the
apologize.
gentleman that
Dichotomy of
directed,
Kevin.
yeah, from the. It's a lot of F-bombs. From the gentleman that directed Hit Monkey Season 2, which if y'all ain't checked out Hit Monkey for real, I would definitely go check it out. Especially if you're a fan of Archer. If you watched the show Archer and enjoyed it, I don't know why, it's Archer with a monkey. And I don't, if there's any way that you could have improved Archer, I think just throwing in a crazy monkey like that's about the only way. And that's literally what Hit Monkey is. It's Archer with a psychotic like killer monkey. And I mean, yeah, as someone that watched it,
Yeah, like the way I would sell it to people is if you like Archer and you like Ted Lasso, but you wish there was more murder, Hit Monkey is your jam.
and yeah, and I definitely did. It's another show that I've passed out to, and I'm like, let's just put this on in the background. I mean, I did sit and watch it all, but now
Yeah.
it's one of the shows
Yeah.
I will definitely play in the background. It's kind of fun. I wish, man, can I say, if there was ever a crossover episode, I wish they could somehow do though, Kevin. I would love a Hit Monkey Archer crossover episode.
I wish that was possible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, I who knows if for the future I have no control over such things, but yeah, I wish that was possible. So
I mean, maybe with enough begging.
I
Yeah.
literally so with all the 007 James Bond drama going on with like the Broccoli's selling all of 007 to Amazon, I'm sitting there going like, I need to message my producers about like doing like, can we do this? Can we do an Archer 007 cross? Like, is this a thing? Like, I don't know. It's not, but like, there's nothing else going on. You know what I mean? Like, all right, like, yeah. So, you know, again, they all will likely say no, but my dream though,
It'd be
like I'm
fun.
sitting there going like, for the studio that I used to work for, and I'm still very in, you know, I'm not a part of it, but like, you know, it's like because things have had to like downsize the way they have, but it's me sitting there going like, hey, Matt Thompson, owner of Floyd County, like, hey, Matt Thompson, like, what are we doing about 007? What are we doing about 007 meets Archer? Like, come on, let's, you know, again, put this out there because don't edit it out, because put it out in the world and let people react how they want to.
As someone that loved the show Archer, man, like I think it's, and that's something you could definitely get into the dichotomy of that particular character too, you know.
Oh yeah, well, he's the dichotomy of Archer. I mean, that is a very much a different and long discussion, because you know, 14 seasons, and the Archer of season 1 is not the Archer of season 14, and that's not a bad thing. It's just the climate of the world changed, the climate of the industry changed, the climate of the storytelling changed, like everything changed, and it's it's very similar to how I view the X-Men, in that like the X-Men that I grew up with of the 80s is not the X-Men of 2025. You know what I mean? Like these are two very different audiences, and we have to reconcile the needs, but also there's a lot of similarities. Like there's a lot of similarities of what these audiences need as far as like emotional needs and like visceral needs of like, no, I need to see Wolverine beat the shit out of some stuff, but also I need to see Cyclops and Jean Grey kind of do some stuff, but also Iceman, you know, he's gay, like I need to see him hitting on some dudes. You know what I mean? Like those are not things that you would have seen in the 80s, but were definitely hinted at in the 80s. You know what I mean? Like there's a culture of stuff that has changed. And I think Archer is the same, in that the culture of Archer season 1, season 2, season 1 through probably 7, 8, 9 for sure. Like that, those characters spoke in a way that the characters of seasons 12, 13, 14 do not speak, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just different, So.
And this was the previous PanCon. I'm about to touch on that subject real quick as far as the effects of streaming on entertainment society, because I'm curious.
Yeah.
Archer released initially on FX. It was released on a weekly basis. It wasn't something where it was like, here's the whole first season, right?
No. Right. Correct.
Do you think if Hit Monkey would have been released on a weekly basis like that, it would have given a bigger possibility for there to have been more seasons? And I say this because in the conversation that we had on that particular PanCon, Damien pointed out that, name me a streaming series that started on streaming that's went beyond 3 seasons.
I mean,
that started on
the one that I talked about earlier, that we talked about, the MGM show From. It's a horror show. It's 3 seasons currently, and they greenlit it for a 4th season, so it will be 4 seasons. But
and it started on streaming.
There's so few that are. That's an outlier, because all the ones that immediately popped in my head when you asked that question are all reality shows.
Doesn't count.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is, like, I'm sitting there going, like, okay, like, nope, season 1, season 2, nope, season, like my brain is immediately going, like, nope, got 3 seasons, nope, got 2 seasons, that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, though, is the question I have, and I don't know that we'll ever get an answer to, is the reality of shows getting greenlit for anything past season 2 and 3 relies so heavily on cable, for lack of a better term, but not cable, but relies heavily on people who are over 40, over 50, really over 50, and their viewing habits. And their viewing habits are still largely based in, from my understanding of, viewing data, the people over 50, their viewing habits are still largely based on terrestrial TV, you know what I mean? Or cable, things that they can get through those channels, because viewing things on Netflix and Hulu and Apple TV and what other app is so much extra work that it really diminishes returns. But that's the audience that, again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. That audience is also taken so lightly, because most of these people are trying to get that audience of, like, 18 to 45, and 18 to 45 now is all streaming and all online. But they're not reliable with how they are doing things because of so many things. Economic, how many streaming services can they afford? Time bandwidth, they're working at best 2 to 3 jobs, so they, you know what I mean? So, like, when they're sitting there watching things, they're watching things because that is the amount of time that they have. Whereas, people in our parents' generation are sitting there going, like, we have all the time in the world because we've saved money, we're able to retire, and we're, I'm not able to do what my parents are doing. My parents are able to sit there and watch whatever the hell they want to watch. I cannot, because I don't have that time. I don't have that bandwidth. I don't have that income. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of plays a not broader, but I think that plays a foundational insecurity about media consumption that older generations do not have to worry about, as far as my experience goes. Does that make sense?
No, and it's funny, and I'm going to cut right back to what this whole conversation started with, which is Batman and Superman. Because if you look at the
Right.
absolute Batman and if you look at the absolute Superman, they're showing very, very different iterations of that character. As far as, and I'm not reading the Batman book, but I know it's him as a working class, and he's just pretty much going around taking a sledgehammer to the upper class, from what I understand, and the people that are
Yeah,
to that
that's my
level,
take on it. I've read the first
right?
2 issues, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, and then Superman is a alien that's come to this planet, and he got to see his parents, and he actually got to live on Krypton. I know I've read up to issue 4 on that one, and now he's on this planet, and he's fighting large evil corporations that are taking advantage of the people.
Right.
So I think it's funny if you look at those 2 characters and where they are now, as far as within the comics, it's shown that they are trying to fight these huge, large corporations that are taking advantage of society as a whole. You know what I mean? That's
Well,
like, people wonder why the entertainment industry has been affected so much. I'll tell you why. Because people don't have the disposable time and income that they used to. Make minimum wage livable, and I guarantee comics will sell better. Until you do that, then people don't have the disposable. And I even, when we had Kelly Thompson on, she was like, I don't know how you increase comic book sales. I said, make minimum wage livable. She's like, I've never heard that before. And it really kind of hurts me to
yeah.
say I really think you're right. And I'm like, yeah, it does me too. Trust me.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
it sucks.
Well, and I think something else to consider is, and I don't know how much this plays into the point of view that we're kind of talking about, but the thing that kind of popped in my mind while you were talking was make important comics about these things that are not from corporations that don't, you know what I mean? Like a comic about Batman with multi-billion, billions, from a corporation that makes multi-billions off of the comic about Batman. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, yeah.
And yeah, how do you get the proper economy to where it's represented in individuals when it's being put out through corporations that are billion-dollar corporations, as far as the parent companies?
They don't need the Batman comic to do well. They just need the Batman comic to keep selling. Like, and that's the thing, is like, so sit there and take the lens that we're talking about things through, and let's shift it over to an Image or a Boom or an IDW or whatever. It doesn't matter. And let's pick, I have no examples off the top of my head, but let's pick a comic from them and have this same conversation. You know what I mean?
Wait, let's do it.
But the thing is people aren't going to care, because it's not the thing that we struggle with marketing wise. Marketing is a whole other conversation in general, but the thing that we all struggle with marketing wise is how do we market these things in a way that appeals to people who have this perception of what it is. So how do you market a not Batman comic to a Batman audience? How do you market a not Superman comic to a not Superman audience? And so go ahead.
Have you read Vinyl by Doug Wagner?
No, but I love Doug. He's a great dude.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be coming on for season 3
Good.
to
No,
give us a little.
Doug's awesome.
Oh,
Doug's
yeah.
Of the people that are doing things differently, Doug is always at the top. Like, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, because what Confessions of a serial what is, oh man, I'm
Oh,
it
I know what you're talking about. Sorry.
It hasn't released yet, but of a designer school serial killer. There you go. Confessions of a Designer School Serial Killer. I am 80% sure I've got that right. Yeah, which it's getting ready to release here in the next couple months. We're going to be discussing that, and it's actually a prequel to Vinyl, which I think is hilarious, because last time he's on,
because I was about to say Vinyl is a fantastic book. Like, yeah.
Oh no, well the last time he was on, I'm sitting there like, you got something coming up? Oh yeah, I can't talk about it. Just tell me it's a prequel to Vinyl. Just tell me it's some kind of prequel to Vinyl. Doug, just tell me it's some kind of, and I can see like a look in his eyes, like, this son of a, because he's sitting there saying what I'm gonna do, but I can't say what I'm gonna do yet. I can't talk about it at all. because of where he was at. But I'm just like, and all I think now that he's done one, I'm like, do more. But I think that's something that all of those characters has a very interesting economy because Doug has a capacity. It's like, here are these characters. Oh, they're crazy. Oh, they're crazy. Oh, they might eat you. Like, they literally might eat you. But they'll only eat you if you're a terrible piece of crap. They might shove a lot of spoons, like little plastic spoons, into you in every artery and every major organ that you have. They might do that, but they'll only do that if you are a terrible piece of crap. You know, they're not going to go and do it to the random individual. So I think that's a fine line, and I think it's funny that we see things like that, in my opinion, more in comics nowadays than we did in the past. You know, in the past, when there was an evil character, it was someone more to the ilk of Evil Ernie, who is just, oh no, I'm just here to kill everyone. You know, and raw metal.
I think we could do with more of that now. That too, you know what I mean?
What, the metal? Like Evil Ernie, just kill them all?
Just the black and whiteness of a character being like, no, this is what I do. I am here to kill people, and you're placing any sort of, you know, like anything else. You're bringing that to me. All I'm doing is I'm doing this thing, and I think that needs to be okay. Like, I think for the dichotomy of superheroes is like, we've been living in this, like, and not a bad thing, but we've been living in this morally gray world for so long that I think it'd be okay for us as the audience, because comics are this superior medium, and we bring so much of what a comic book is with us when we open a comic. So you, as your history of reading comics, you bring that with you when you read a comic. So when you pick one up, you don't know anything about it, but you have an expectation for how a comic is supposed to be read. I think that's amazing. I think that is beautiful, and I think that is the thing that we can subvert. And I think you can sit there and you can bring a black and white character that says, like, no, I just kill people. And we sit there and we make the moral gray. You know what I mean? Like, I think that we need more of that. I think we need more of like people being like people creating comics being like, no, yeah, this character, she just goes around and she just murders dudes. And you can sit there and suss out whether you agree with her or not. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's okay. Like, I think that is fine. I think we need more of that. And we've gotten so into the weeds on this, like, again, needing everyone of every stripe to understand and agree with why a character is doing something. And it's like, no, I don't agree. Like, Shiro, I'm sure you're a lovely person, but there's probably things that I agree with you, how you conduct your life on a like, say you're sitting there being like, no, I'm going to murder this cat. All right, Shiro, I disagree with you, but you may have a very valid reason for murdering this cat, but I disagree with that. That's not going to stop you from murdering that cat. I am just sitting there as someone else, you know what I mean? As a person interacting with the story, all I need to be is I need to be given a set of information and a set of things that I agree or disagree with, and whether or not that's compelling enough to keep reading. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of my point of view on how so much of this works, is that, like, I don't need to agree with what the character is doing. I need to sit there and negotiate and agree with why I want to keep reading. Shiro, if you're murdering cats, God damn it, I want to know why. You know what I mean? So, like, that's what I'm, and the same thing to take it back to a Batman, take it back to a Superman, or whatever. It's like,
the questionnaire does not condone killing animals, and no animals were harmed during the recording of this podcast.
But real quick,
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, I just got to say, like, if they're going feral, like Tony Fleece is feral, like if they're going feral like that, if that's what the cats are doing, please kill the cats, all right? But that's only if they're going feral, a la Tony Fleece is feral, right? Because nobody wants to deal with
which
that.
Also an amazing book. I was so mad when he announced that book, and I had been working on a screenplay that I'm still working on called Feral, and I texted him. I was like, "You son of a bee!" Like, I am working on a. I know, right? I'm working on a thing called Feral, and he's like, dude, you know the rule. Titles don't matter. Nobody cares. Do your thing. And I'm like, I know, but still, I'm mad that you beat me to it. So yeah. But
hey,
also, it's a
but
really
check
good
out
book.
check out the quest he was just on where we discuss his upcoming book from Marvel because he's writing Ben Grimm's
He is.
yeah,
You're
the
right.
thing.
He is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We just
Actually,
had him
good
on
point.
discussing that.
Good advertising, because I will need to listen to that interview because I have not talked to Tony in person in a few months. So yeah.
See, now I feel like I need to. See, this is the thing. Like, part of me wants to arrange a board in my house. And it's like, okay, this guy knows this guy goes this guy, and
Yeah,
like like a little like detective board of everybody that's been
Please
on the
do.
quest.
Yeah.
I swear,
Please
no,
do the It's Always Sunny Psycho board and get us all together, and we can do a panel, and like, it'll be fine.
oh no, if somebody walked into my house and I had that, they'd be like, yeah, we're taking the child. You're a psychopath. And I feel like we have to just
Hold on.
The trick
Who's
is to
walking
not
into
let
your
them
house?
in the house.
Oh, we're not getting in.
Answer the door in your underwear like you usually do, and that'll just make them leave.
I would rather not see you in your underwear, so I agree with Shiro that would make.
That's why. Hey, look, be glad I had the boy at least. Like, whatever. We ain't getting into all that, man. You know, he had to poop.
At least
whatever.
you didn't take the
Notice
camera
he's not
with you when you
denying
were
it.
wiping his ass. So, like, I think that's an improvement.
Notice he did not deny.
I know that's the biggest thing about all this is like in hindsight, he's going to see this and be like,
I should have said I don't. It's not true, but I should have said I don't.
What did I miss? I feel like I just missed the point, man. Whatever.
Just
Like,
keep feeling
no,
nice breeze.
You're good. I honestly, and also I appreciate the space that you and Shiro create for discussion and for the ability to talk about things.
well, firstly,
yeah,
Kevin, it is not just myself and Shiro. There are so many people as far as with the team of the questionnaire that have made this show work to the capacity that it has, including everyone that's been on. Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and name drop, but I mean, it's a pretty phenomenal list of names. I mean, even just this and the past PanCon and the one that's going to be coming up with everybody that really brings the show together and the conversations that are had there. And in all honesty, that's one thing I like. I think they're important conversations. It's funny, and because we get in depth, they're thoughts from so many different peoples, from so many different aspects and backgrounds. You know, we've got everybody from the 51st state hanging out around.
That's rich coming from the 11th province. You're not even worth 11th province. You're going to be third territory. That's what's going to happen.
Even better. Even better.
Does that mean we get free healthcare?
God, I hope so.
Only if you pass the French exam.
Oui. Parlez-vous?
Oh, sorry. Hold on. We and Timbits.
You passed.
Do I need to say double, or is it just Timbits?
No, double is okay.
What?
He fails. He is not a part of the 11th territory.
Go back to your territory.
Yeah.
Damn it. I just wanted free healthcare. All right, that's all. I think I'd be down with being the 11th province territory, whatever, for real, if it did come with free healthcare. Like, that's funny, as Deadpool is on my TV in the background. Whoa, yeah, there's the dichotomy. There's a dichotomy you could go into as far as Deadpool's too. I want to point out that is changed so drastically from the inception of that character.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, pretty much all characters that are almost all characters that are introduced as just I just kill. They end up having a story.
Well, that's I mean, Deadpool's an interesting one because obviously Rob gets a lot of credit for stuff, and rightfully so. But also, Rob did not introduce who that character became to that character. That was Joe Casey. That was Gail Simone. That was like so many other people. Like and rightfully so. Like those people were handed someone who's like, here's the merc with the mouth, and how do you make that work? And that's a wonderful storytelling and writing problem to solve, and that so many like Fabian and Joe and Gail and like so many others have wonderfully like solved, and that that's who the character is. Yes, Rob gave us the genesis, the groundwork, the foundation for what he is, but what he is as far as a cultural icon is, like, that's not Rob. So nice.
I love that. I just finished that recently. It's a phenomenal book by Fabian. Man,
Okay, good. I actually was reading something the other day, and I forget what it was. I was reading an old issue of. Oh, it was shoot. Either Prophet or Evangeline, or Prophet Evangeline, or like something that Fabian had done the plot on, and I was like, "What is this guy up to?" So it's good to know. Yeah.
No, he's actually and he just I think they're trying to work. He's trying to option something out right now, and then he's got another book out that I do need to pick up, man. But that was phenomenal.
I just remember, like, the unfortunate thing about him is there was a podcast, and I forget the name of it, but it was a British podcast in the late 2000s, early 2010s. A couple of British dudes just talking about stuff, but they would always bring him up, and they would always they would always horribly mispronounce his name, and I'm going to do it here just to have it on record, but they would call him Fabian Niciezi, and that is not how you say his name.
It's Niciasa.
They loved him, which is the thing. Like, they would sit there and they would talk. Two British dudes with the best British accents talking about like him and Liefeld, and talking about that era of comics, and they loved it so much, but they did it in the most sarcastic and nonsensical way, and part of it was calling him Fabian Niciezi. So yeah.
He was on the show a couple times before I did start getting his name right. I will definitely say that, because Fabian's got like
it's Nicieza, right?
Niciasa.
Niciasa. Okay.
Niciasa.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
See, it's
Niciasa. Good to know.
Dude, I can't tell you how many. Look, that's a running gag over here at the questionnaire, Kevin. But you didn't get to partake because it's Kevin Melon. If somebody mispronounces your name, they're just being a dick.
Yeah.
Let's be real honest. Like, they must not like you.
Oh, if my sister was here, my sister is like really French, and she struggles with a lot of English words. She would call you Kevin Melon.
I was about to say, if she's French, she'd be like, it'd be Mellon or Mellon, or like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That's actually the only mispronunciation of my name I get is from people who are not USA based, is to be like, oh, am I saying this correctly? Mellon? Like, what? I'm like, no, it's just Mellon. It's just, like, which I appreciate them trying, but they're not American, so they're trying way too hard. So it's very simple.
That's okay. So if someone in the U.S. mispronounces your name, let me add that addendum. You know what I mean? Because I mean, if someone that's why I've mispronounced so many names, because we've had so many people on the show from something like when my boy ran in earlier. In all honesty, there's part of me that thinks because the last episode he ran in on was Christoph Borgoff, and he's from Australia, and my boy runs in and he's like, Daddy, why is it still light there? Because he's in Australia. So it's still like
he doesn't,
beginning of the day, Yeah. So it was a cool moment.
That's funny.
Yeah, because I get to explain to my boy, that's because he's on the other part of the world, and kind of show him and explain to him that. So it's even caused interesting things in running this show, like for my boy to have more of a world view, man. And I know for a fact,
that's awesome. That's honestly, that's really awesome. So
it's been so, and I know there are people working together from the show that didn't know one another from the show, which in part kind of blows my mind, Kevin. I'm not gonna lie, but y'all should go support the Patreon, right? It is $2 a month. You can, just for signing up, you get to see all the pre-show questionnaires that I make all these people fill. I have and they're getting really screwy. I should send you a new one just for shits and giggles, Kevin, because you'd be like, this is not like the one I filled out the first time. I'd be like, I know, right? Because I've got 3 different ones now. My boy even helped me make up one of the questions.
And if you'll remember, I was very I do not want to fill this out. Like, do I have to fill this out? Can't we just have a conversation? Like, can't we just talk? So for me filling it out was actually like, I didn't tell you this at the time. Me filling it out was actually an act of aggression. Like I was like, I'm fucking you know, like,
No,
'cause
no,
I was, once we talked, I was like, all right, the questionnaire is fine. I'm glad I did it. But my thing is like, I do not like stuff like that. Like, and this has nothing to do with you, because I'm sitting there going like, all I want to do is I would rather do this. Like, say you and I never talked. Say you just said, hey, I want to interview you. I've been like, yep, let's do it. We get on and then we find out who we are as we talk. Like, that is what I like. And that actually was a nice thing about like meeting Fred. It's like, okay. And when you go back, there's parts where you walk away and like, I was like, Fred, who are you? What do you do? Like, tell me about you. Cause I want to know who you are. Cause he's a fascinating dude. Like, and he doesn't even need to have worked in comics for me to say that's a fascinating dude. He just was talking and I'm like, all right, you're a fascinating dude. What do you do? You know what I mean? So I think that, to me, but also though, like the thing that I have come to appreciate about how you guys handle things of doing the questionnaire and all that stuff is as the interviewers and as the people putting this together, you need some shit to talk about. So, I get it.
Look, Kevin, I'm gonna be real honest with you. When you interview that many people,
Yeah.
some of them, I'm trying to like, I'm gonna put it like this: there are certain quests that have been done that will never see the light of day for one reason or the other. Because I'm
Poor
like,
Shiro.
and why are you what are you giggling about, Shiro? What do you? I don't want to hear it. Right? Like, look, it'd just be more graphics for you to make if I put all of them out, anyways. Right? But it's the fact of there are conversationalists in life, and then there are really quiet people, and then sometimes people are just boring. And I'm a full believer in you talk. Look, there's never been any show ever that you and I have talked less than this particular one, Shiro. Let's be real honest. But I'm a full believer in what Harvey Danger said. If you're bored, then you're boring. You know what I mean? And that's just the fact of it. But when you go through and you interview 150, 170, whatever the bloody number is. I don't rightly care. There's been a lot of great people over here, and that's the parts that I'm concerned of. The parts that, when it's a conversation, it's an informative conversation. It gets into things that are random. Sometimes it's about the world. Sometimes it's about entertainment. Sometimes it's about the background of how these things are created in so many different levels. And don't yawn at me. Am I boring you? I will end this show right now, Kevin. It's been long enough anyways.
No, that's the side effects of a bad night of sleep. So,
what's a good night of sleep? I ain't known that in months.
Well, I mean, yeah, like good night of sleep for me is not waking up a bunch of times, not having to go pee in the middle of the night, and then the dogs deciding that they don't need to go outside at 7 a.m. So.
Oh, see,
none of that happens. So, it's
well, drink less before you go to bed, and I don't know what to tell you about
too.
the rest.
Yeah, that too. That also is a factor. Yeah,
that's the only piece of advice I can give you to perhaps fix that a little bit, man. But I do definitely think, like I said, I want to try and make it to where, I think our first PanCon of season 3 is going to be the Diconomy of Superheroes Part 2, and we're going to try and arrange it a little bit smoother. Sometimes for everybody out there, I want to let y'all know that watching, when you're trying to arrange it to where you're trying to get a bunch of creative people together, Shiro, what do you say that is?
Herding cats.
No, wrangling a bunch of creators, like trying to wrangle sheep, but like with no dog.
Yeah.
So that's true.
It's herding feral cats.
We literally have some time zones issues with some of the creators, but that's like 1% of the issue, because we're all creators, we're all neurodivergent in some way.
Yeah.
And you know that photo of that mom who has 2 kids on leashes and she's like this? Yeah, imagine doing that with about 15 people.
Yeah. I would say, like, if we want to do this again, and we should do this again, but yeah, let me help you out with wrangling, because, like, not that I am better at it than y'all, but I think it probably will help if there's more than one person, and especially if it's someone from the creative side being like, "Hey, stoked to talk to you about this. Like, are you down? You know, you doing this? Whatever. Like, just let me know." So,
And I will say that's why I love this community so much, man, because the creators like you and everyone else, they have been so helpful. I mean,
Yeah.
sincerely, there are people that
no, because I know how I am, and I'm terrible at this stuff. And the fact that I showed up means I'm way better at it than the other. You know what I mean? And that's not a dig on them. That's just meaning, like, they're people with lives and responsibilities and things to do. And so sometimes like, I literally was like, I should text Phil, like, "Hey, are you showing up?" But also I'm sitting there going, like, it's Phil. If he's not showing, if he remembered to be here or knew it was going on, like, he would be here. You know what I mean? Because he's
and I needed to
very obligation oriented. Like, Phil, when he obligates himself to something, I bet tomorrow he'll be like, "Oh crap, I should have done." You know what I mean? So
I'm trying to remember. I swear I just recently picked up something recently from Phil in the past couple months too, and I wanted to talk to him about it. But I've read so much and life's been so much and I don't even know, right? But I'll tell you what, right? What we're gonna do on that note is I don't want no more to edit. And Kevin's gonna swear more, and then I'm gonna and I ain't editing that out. This the fuck was said. This was like a season 1 episode at the end of season 2 where just a lot of F bombs were dropped. Because if you check season 1,
sorry.
Kevin, oh my god, dude, I swore a lot. I really did. Right, but I hope you all enjoyed it, man. Like I said, we're getting ready to wrap season 2. We've got one more quest we're gonna throw in the middle. We got the season 2 finale that's gonna be everybody that is really truly involved with the questionnaire. And they're gonna. I got a feeling it's gonna be everybody picking on me, Kevin. That's what it's gonna be. It's really
It
is.
should
So,
be no other way.
Yes.
This is the way. This is the way.
hey, it's cool, man. Like I said, I love it. It's the people that have been brought on for interviews is the reason that this show still runs the way that it does. Now, I will say, right, I figured it out, and since it's only Kevin, I just want to let you all know, right? If you want to make his day, go tell him. Like start a Hit Monkey season 3, right? Because I want Hit Monkey season 3 personally.
Yeah.
I do. I want it, right? You start bugging, like, make a big Twitter campaign about it. Apparently that crap works. Also sign up for the Patreon. It's $2 a month. Also, if you want to annoy the crap out of Kevin, I think just take away his ability to swear. I think that would be bloody hilarious. Right now.
I just need to like find some sort of that's what AI could be good for. Is I need to find some sort of AI thing that, like, filters me as I'm talking, so that way you only hear the censored version.
No, AI would only be good for replacing CEOs, as Alan Henry once said on this show.
That's fair.
I'm
That's
a firm
fair.
believer in that. Besides
Yeah.
that, right, I just want you all to do 3 things, right? 1, always give it that thumbs up. 2, always get your comic on. And remember, as we discussed on the streaming and its effects on entertainment, right? Remember, short form entertainment, it's not good for your noggin. Consume long form entertainment. Read something. Get your comic on. Besides that, have a good night, y'all.
Thanks for having me.
This has been the questionnaire.
Where's the link?
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
In the link below, yes?
I will drop it like it's hot.
That's another party.
It's cool, man. I love it.
The questionnaire. That is all.